أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم ينفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ينفعنا وزدنا علما يا كريم يا رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, good to see everyone here in the masjid, alhamdulillah, on a Friday night. Alhamdulillah, we're going on, tonight's program is on the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam, his life and his times. Now when we talk about Ibrahim alayhi salam, we're talking about an individual that's mentioned in the Quran multiple times, second to Musa alayhi salam. And of course, the Quran is filled with the life of Musa alayhi salam. So there's a lot to say about Ibrahim alayhi salam, to the point that we probably won't do justice covering it all today. I'll probably have to cut a lot of things short. So I gotta first and foremost apologize to that, because so for an individual who is as great as Ibrahim alayhi salam, then justice needs to be done in terms of talking about his life. So I need to make that disclaimer. We probably won't have enough time to go over it. So why are we talking about Ibrahim alayhi salam in the first place? Well, we all know it's Hajj season coming up, or we're around the corner of Hajj. It's mentioned that a week from today, Dhul Hijjah will be starting. Of course, check your moon sighting and all your announcements, but it should be around this time. If the sisters that want to come, they could sit on the back, on the side of the masjid here. Sorry about that, I forgot to mention that. So if sisters want to join. And so we all know that Hajj only takes place in one area, and that is in Mecca and in Kaaba, obviously. And we all know that Ibrahim alayhi salam, obviously with his son, built the Kaaba. And so obviously this has a great connection to Ibrahim alayhi salam, and also stoning the Jamarat and running between Safa and Marwa, or at least walking between the two, and other things, if you will. And so here is that, inshallah ta'ala, we want to basically have that connection that we go over Ibrahim alayhi salam's life, because I believe there's so many things that we could take from it that you'll benefit yourself with. So first and foremost, why do we want to talk about his life for? I mentioned a couple things. One thing is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran where it says, وَاتَّخَذُ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ خَلِيلًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that He took Ibrahim alayhi salam as a Khalil. Right? And what is a Khalil? In Arabic, there's something called a Siddiq. Right? He's my Siddiqi. He's my friend. But Khalil is like a really close friend. Like they're always together. Right? You have two people that are always together. You see them always. Talking here, eating over there, etc. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls Ibrahim alayhi salam his Khalil. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need friends first and foremost. He doesn't need anyone to spend time with, right? That's a human's interactions. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing that how close he was to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you go to the tafsir of this ayah, Ibn Kathir rahimahullah mentions that why did Ibrahim alayhi salam get this title for? He says because kathra al-ta'at, that because of the amount of obedience that Ibrahim alayhi salam did, got him to go higher and higher and higher. Now that's open for me and you and everyone here. The more you're obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and obviously we should obviously do that, the more you're going to see barakah and things come in your life. That's just the way the game is played, right? And because Ibrahim alayhi salam passed so many tests, which we're going to go over today, this is the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him that title. And that's why there's a place in Palestine right now called Khalil, or Al-Khalil. And that's supposed to be in the area where Ibrahim alayhi salam is buried, or this place called Hebron also. But we'll get to that a little bit later on. That's the reason why they call that area Khalil in Palestine. Another thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about what the scholars have talked about, the 5 greatest prophets that are mentioned in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Araf, I believe, it says, فَاصْبِرْ كَمَا صَبْرَ أُولُو الْعَزْمِ مِنَ الرُّسُلِ. Have patience like the ones who have great determination of the prophets. So people are saying, who are these prophets that Allah is talking about? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ulul Azm is a special group of prophets. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions in another verse that kind of describes that, who are these 5 major prophets. And it's mentioned that it's Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, we have Musa alayhi salam, Nuh alayhi salam, and of course Isa alayhi salam. These 5 are above the rest, if you will, in terms of rank, in terms of honor, in terms of degree, if you will. And some scholars have mentioned that debatable that the highest prophet, or the most ranked highest prophet after the Prophet ﷺ is Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? People call him the father of religions, because a lot of religions came from his lineage. We like to say there's only one religion, but anyhow, that's another point to make, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls him Imam in the Quran, multiple things. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we already got cleared that he's very important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him these great titles about the Imam for the people, right? That he is a Khalil, and also he's one of these 5 great prophets. So first and foremost, where did Ibrahim alayhi salam, where was he born? Anyone know? Can anyone guess where he was born? I'll give you a hint. Not Garden Grove, for sure, not Garden Grove. Palestine, present time Iraq, there's a city that starts with a B. Babylon or Babil in Arabic, right? The great city of Babylon. There's a lot of really weird things that happened in Babylon, but anyhow, there was a leader at that time. His name was Nimrud or Nimrod. Ever heard of that name before? It's a derogative term, like here in America. You call like a kid, hey, you Nimrod, what are you doing, right? Basically, it's like almost someone who doesn't have intelligence. Why? Because it comes from Nimrud, because he was a king, but he wasn't the smartest of kings. But it said that he ruled almost the whole entire world. And Ibrahim alayhi salam was born in this area of modern-day Iraq. It said Babylon was about 40 miles away from present-day Baghdad or something around there, right? This ancient city of Babylon. And this is where he grew up. And there's some little difference of opinion where he was, if he was Palestine. Some people say Egypt, some people say Damascus area or Syria. But the majority of the opinion is that he's from this area called Babil, or Babylon, if you will. And he grew up there and in a city where they used to worship idols. Many of you guys know the story about the idols. And that's what they used to worship. And we all know that his father was the maker of the idols, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls him Azar in the Quran. It's very interesting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually mentions his father's name in the Quran. Usually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't really mention names of people, but he mentions his name of being Azar. There is opinion that it was actually his uncle, right, that he grew up with, but we'll go that it was his father, and that's actually the majority opinion, okay? And so he grew up with his father, who was the one that used to carve the idols and sell them. Ibrahim alayhi salam was a young boy. He went around the city and think this is silly, that what people are talking to the idols and they don't speak, they don't do anything for them. I'm not going to worship them, okay? And this was a very famous story that a lot of you grew up in, your Saturday, Sunday schools, learning about the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam and what he did to the idols. And it's mentioned that they had a festival, and they were going to go outside of the city. Usually festivals happen outside of the city, right? We have like the Orange County Fair going, the OC County Fair going on right now, right? It's usually at the Fairplex, like far away. So same thing, they're having this fair, this festival, and everyone from the town is going out. Ibrahim says, Ana saqim, I'm sick. I don't want to go, right? And here, sick could be metaphorically sick, but I'm just like sick of you guys, right? You ever heard that term? Right? Hopefully you don't hear it about yourself, but probably heard it somewhere. That I'm sick, I don't want to be with you guys, kind of, right? And so everyone left him alone. And they went out and they did their thing in the city, and Ibrahim alayhi salam is alone in the town square where there's a big temple area where they had all the different idols. And it said the idol that was the biggest of them, as is mentioned in some of the narrations, this idol had very big ears because he was knowledgeable, he had big ears, right? And another thing just to note is that anytime we talk about prophets, and especially Ibrahim alayhi salam, there's a lot of stories from Ahl al-Kitab, from the people of the book, the Christians and the Jews, that mixes in with the Muslim story. It fits in those gaps that we don't know. And Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah, he wrote a book called Stories of the Prophets. Many of you maybe have it at home. You get it off on PDF online for free. But anyhow, he mentions a lot of stories by Ibrahim alayhi salam. But honestly, to tell you the truth, majority, and he mentions them himself, the majority of the stories that we get from Ibrahim alayhi salam is from the Bible or from the Christian narrations or the Jewish narrations, right? And it could be that the Prophet ﷺ said, relate the stories of the people of the book, and there's no problem with that. As long as it doesn't contradict something in Islam, right? So we won't say Isa alayhi salam, in the Bible says that he is God, even though it doesn't say it there. But we won't say that. We'll say, no, he never said something like that, right? But we could take stories from the Bible, other things, as long as it doesn't affect our aqidah, any type of ruling in Islam. Okay, we'll take that if you will. And there's some funny stories. And one thing I want to mention is that sometimes when we talk to Christians and Jews, and we tell them, like, yeah, we have the same prophets of you, right? And we have the same stories as you. It's a great line to use to cause that similarity and that bond building. But to let you know, there's a lot of stories in the Bible that from the same prophets we have, but there's a lot of difference. I'll give you a little note. I'm getting on a little bit of a tangent right now. But talk about Nuh alayhi salam. In the Bible, talk about Nuh alayhi salam when he was saved in the boat, just like we have in the Quran. It landed on a mountain, right? We have that same story in the Quran also. But in the Bible, it mentions that Nuh alayhi salam, a'udhu billah, said that he got drunk on the beach and he fell down with no clothes on the beach. And his children saw him. That's mentioned in the Bible. Okay, we don't have that story at all in the Quran, right? So just showing you sometimes we do have the same prophets, but the stories are not always matching up. Go back to Ibrahim alayhi salam. So he goes out, he sees the big idol, we all know the story really well, that he broke all the idols and he put an axe or the bat or something on the big idol to show that as if he did it, right? And then when the people in town came back, they went in and they saw the idols all broken and said, who did this? And someone said, I think there was a young boy that around here. I think his name is Ibrahim. Now that shows you something. Why do they say they think his name Ibrahim? It means that they didn't really give much care to him because number one, what? He's a young boy, who cares? Right? Ibrahim alayhi salam is mentioned that he was around 7 years old at this time. Or 9. Walking around Babylon, walking around his village, telling people, why do you worship these idols? If you're an adult during that time, what would you tell that little kid? You're a little smart aleck, right? Keep quiet. Go back home. Where's your parents at? Right? You talk too much, right? But he went around and telling the adults, why do you worship this? Number one, he really cared about what was going on. He had passion. That's one thing about kids, they have a lot of energy. When you get older, like me, you kind of lose that motivation, right? And so here, alhamdulillah, he was very active. And so this is, I think we think someone named Ibrahim, he used to talk about their idols, maybe bring him. So they brought him, as we know, and then they said, did you break it? And he makes a famous line. He said, why don't you ask the Kabir? Why don't you ask the big one, right? If he talks. And what did everyone say? He can't talk. You know he can't talk. And just at that moment, as Allah SWT mentions in the Quran, that the people started doubting. They're like, yeah, that makes no sense. But they said they reverted really quickly. And we all know that they got Ibrahim alayhi salam and said, you know what? We're going to kill you pretty much. We're going to put you in a big fire because you destroyed all our idols, and that's super disrespectful. And it's mentioned that they made a big, what? Fire. To the point that they said that the city they brought, everyone was bringing everything they could burn, and they made this large inferno type fire. To the point that they couldn't take Ibrahim alayhi salam and put him in the fire afterwards. Why? It was too hot. It was too hot to even walk up to it, right? If you've ever been to a stove sometime when it's really hot, you can't even put your hand close to it, even though the fire is over here. And so they're like, what do we do? We can't tell him to walk into the fire, he's not going to do so. So they said, we're going to get a catapult. Strap him on it and then fling him over, and he'll get into the fire somehow. And they strapped him in that catapult, and as they were about to throw him in, it's mentioned he was even in the sky. And guess who came down to him? Who came down to him was Jibril alayhi salam, Angel Gabriel. Angel Gabriel comes to him, and it's mentioned that he says that, do you need anything from me? As you're about to fall into this pit of fire, you only have about a couple seconds now. Do you need anything from me? And one thing we know, Allah SWT protects their prophets, his prophets. And the angel Jibril, his main job is to talk to the prophets. And what did he tell Jibril alayhi salam? As for you, I don't need anything from you. But he means that what? Allah will take care of me. I don't know about you, I'll take that. I'll take Ibrahim alayhi salam, I'll take Jibril alayhi salam, help me out at any time. I say, all right, Jibril, help me out, I don't mind, right? But look at the, you want to say boldness or the tawakkul or the trust of Ibrahim alayhi salam on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's about to fall into a pit of fire and he tells Jibril alayhi salam, from you I don't need anything. I don't know about you, that's a hard statement to make. I'll be calling every fire department in the world and please help me out because I'm about to die right now. But Ibrahim alayhi salam, he is in another level, right? Even being 7, 8, or 9 years old at that time. We know the story that he falls into this big pit of fire. Some narrations mention that he was there for a very long time, right? Days, some people say weeks. Could be a small amount of time, different narrations. And to the point that the fire burnt down either, or he walked out, and he was handcuffed, or if you will, or tied his arms together and his feet. And the fire burnt all the ropes of that, but it didn't touch him at all. And he walks out without one burnt aspect in his body. The heat never affected him. And all the people are watching like, wow, How did that happen? Right? And to the point, though, these people are just so ignorant that they saw this, but guess what? How many people believed in Ibrahim alayhi salam afterwards? Still zero. Right? Still, even after that, they still didn't believe it. Right? And it showed them that what? Even though you worship your idols, but look, I don't worship any idols, and look what? I could get protected by Ar-Rahman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? That was the biggest lesson right there. Right? But he made them stand right there, and they still didn't believe. And that shows you something sometimes. You could talk to people, you could show them miracles, but sometimes people just will not see the truth. That doesn't mean we don't try, but we give it a chance, if you will. So Ibrahim alayhi salam goes out after that, and it's mentioned that one person believed in him, and that was his cousin. Anyone know his cousin's name? Starts with an L. Lut alayhi salam. Very good. Lut is another prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? His brother's son, right? Lut alayhi salam, right? Comes out and says, I believe in you. You have, that was pretty amazing, right? And ends up following him. Some people say Sarah, his wife, was there also. It wouldn't make much sense if he's 80 years old. He wouldn't have a wife at that time, right? So that's different narrations there. So now what happens? People kick him out of the city and he leaves, right? He can't go back in that city, obviously. They try to kill him. It's not going to work. So he goes out. And it's mentioned after that he meets up with Nimrod, who is the leader of Babylon at that time. Nimrod hears about this boy who was talking about the idols and just stepped out of the fire. He wants to know, who is this guy? I want to meet him, or this boy. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Baqarah a conversation between Nimrod and Ibrahim alayhi salam, where they have a dawah type dialogue. He tries to convince him that worship Allah. So he says something very interesting. He says, my Lord, Ibrahim says, my Lord is the one that causes death and gives life. Could you beat that? Could you beat that, Nimrod? Huh? Could you cause death and be alive? You can't. So worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't have much power. You think you have power. What did Nimrod say? He says, I could cause death and give life. Ibrahim alayhi salam was like, what's this guy talking about? So he said, hey, look, watch. So it's mentioned that he got some people from the prison to come out. He said, this for this guy, he goes free. See, I gave him life. But this one here, execute him and kill him. Look, I take life. I do the same thing. Ibrahim alayhi salam, like, what do you think Ibrahim alayhi salam is saying? That's not what I meant. Are you crazy? That's not what I meant. Well, what's wrong with you? And this lesson we learn here is sometimes when you debate with people, they end up saying the weirdest things. You don't know how to talk back to them anymore. Right? Sounds like a husband and wife conversation sometimes, right? So anyhow, so here is that. What did Ibrahim alayhi salam say? Did he keep on going on that point? He said, no, I didn't mean this. What's wrong with you? I'm talking about a baby being born. That's what I'm talking about, right? And someone dying, the natural causes. He didn't say he gave up on the argument. Because it's not even worth talking to this guy. So he said, you know what? My Lord is the one that brings the sun from the east and causes it to what? Set in the west. Can you bring it up from the west? And Nimrod said, he got stuck. So if one proof doesn't work, go to another one, right? This is also nice, good marital counseling skills here, right? And so anyhow, and he got baffled. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that he was baffled. And he said he couldn't answer that, and he left. And he left Ibrahim alayhi salam and let him go. It's mentioned that Nimrod ended up dying later on. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a bunch of flies and insects to overcome his army. And it's mentioned that a fly attacked him, went up his nostril, went up his nose. And what do you think Nimrod did to try to kill that insect? He got a stick and started what? Beating his nose. Basically hitting himself in the head until he died. That's why they call someone Nimrod, if they're not very smart. Don't use these terms anyhow, I'm just telling you. But it's not good to call people Nimrod or something like that. Bad lessons for that. Anyhow, let's go back to Ibrahim alayhi salam. You'll learn some better things from him. So anyhow, so here he lives, Nimrod. Alhamdulillah, that's his little thing that he had with this king. And he ends up leaving, and it's mentioned Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, to go to the lands of Palestine now. Remember, we started in Iraq, we're going to go to Palestine. Ibrahim alayhi salam was kind of a bit of a traveler, if you will, you're going to see in his story. Right, and then so he's sent to go to Palestine. He goes there, it's mentioned that he goes there with his wife. So either he picked up his wife Sarah during the time with Nimrod and living in this area, and Lut alayhi salam is following him. So these three people. Okay. He goes into Palestine and stays there for a bit. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him to go to Egypt. Go to Egypt over there and also call people to Islam. Call people to Allah. And it's mentioned in a very famous story in Hadith. This story is actually not mentioned in the Quran, but it's mentioned in Hadith literature. That Ibrahim alayhi salam is traveling with Sarah, his wife, into Egypt. And there was a very corrupt tyrant leader in Egypt. There's tyrant leaders everywhere. I don't think that has changed ever since Ibrahim alayhi salam. But anyhow, unfortunately, there was a big tyrant leader in Egypt. And when he got there, this leader says, he noticed his wife. And his wife was charming. She was beautiful. And so he said, like, who is this lady here? We want her. So he said, to point to Ibrahim, who are you? And who is she? He said that, my name's Ibrahim, and this is my sister. But it's his wife. But he said, this is my sister. Why did he say that for? Meaning my sister in what? In the deen, in the religion. Right? We say sisters. You guys could sit in the back, right? None of those people over there are my sisters. I don't have any sisters, blood sisters that I know of, right? But sisters in the religion. Out of respect, we use that term. So Ibrahim alayhi salam said, this is my sister. Sarah kind of doesn't know what's going on, so she kind of looks at him. And it's mentioned, he said, like, we're the only believers on this earth, so you're my sister in faith. Why did he use that term for? Because if he would have said, I'm her husband, they probably would have killed him, because they want the wife. But if you're a sister, okay, don't care, we'll still take her. We're probably going to let you go, because you're just a brother. So you end up saving his life that way. Some people call these white lies to extent, right? But it's tawriya, we call it in Arabic, where there's a word that can have two meanings. Okay? And so ends up taking Sarah. This king takes Sarah into the room. Obviously, he likes her very much. He's attracted to her. But anytime he tries to get close to her, something happens. And he dresses it up very nice and so forth. And it's mentioned in different narrations that anytime he would go and grab for her and try to hold her, his hand will hurt, and to the point that got paralyzed. And then he realized, what? This is not a human, it's a devil or a demon. And he got very scared. Allah protects her, right? And tells his guard, take her away from me, right? As he's now got paralyzed. And then he says something, did something very weird, very interesting, where he says, I got a slave girl here, a servant in my kingdom. Her name is Hajar. I'll give her to you. Just leave. Maybe he did that because he was scared that she will do more things to him. Sarah didn't do anything to the king. It was all, of course, we all know, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so he gives her this servant named Hajar. He said, you could take her as a prize, just please leave. Sarah comes back to Ibrahim alayhi salam, finds him what? Praying. Find him what? Doing what? Praying. Right? And some scholars mention that when someone's in trouble, someone else, and someone could benefit from you praying for that other person. Right? And that's how Ibrahim alayhi salam was. And so Ibrahim alayhi salam, what happened? He said, this happened, and then they both left, and they went back to Palestine area to live. Now it's Ibrahim alayhi salam and who? Sarah and Hajar. Right? Hajar is not his wife as of yet. Just a servant that's gifted to Sarah. Sarah is getting old, in her 80s or so. And it's mentioned that she tells Ibrahim alayhi salam, I don't know if I'm going to be able to bring you a child. Right? Usually prophets, they want children to carry on the what? The legacy of prophethood and carry on the message, which is a noble thing. Right? And so that I don't have a child to do so. And that's another big lesson for a lot of the parents in the crowd. You could ask yourself, why did you have children for? It's a really interesting question. Why did you have children for? Well, they're cute, and I like to play with them, and they're fun. That's great. That's fun. But that's not the main reason why we have children for. It's either to make them better than you, and they help society and make the world better. That is the reason why we have children for. And of course, to be more Muslims in the world, that's also great. Right? But we want good Muslims. We don't want Muslims by name, if you will. Right? And so you really, when you're bringing up your children, very important that you teach them these things, if you will, so they could benefit and be better than you and help out the world, if you will, in any which way capacity that they can. And so Sarah says, I'm getting older. Why don't you take Hajar, my servant, as your bride, as your wife? Maybe she will be able to conceive a child for you. And so this is a great gesture, right, to do so. That's a big sacrifice for Sarah. If you think about it, women won't like someone else, with their husband at all, right? There's a jealousy issue there. Not just for women. A man wouldn't like anyone talking to their wife and spending time with her and laughing with her. It would feel awkward. But that's a great thing that she knows how much Ibrahim wants alayhi salam, wants a child. So he says, go ahead. And so what happens, it ends up that, alhamdulillah, she conceives. She has a baby. It's mentioned that Ibrahim alayhi salam was around 80-something years old. Right? 80-something years old, subhanAllah. I finally get it. If that's patience, that's patience for you. Right? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, help all those couples out there trying to have kids. We all know that can be very frustrating and very depressing at times, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a plan for everyone. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you with what's best for you, inshallah. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. And so they finally have a child. And then after having this child, Ibrahim alayhi salam gets the message to go down to the place called, modern day place where we call Mecca, if you will, with Hajar and the baby. Now if you go to the Bible, you'll see that what's the reason why Ibrahim alayhi salam took Hajar and the baby is Ismail alayhi salam, right? Why did they take them back to Mecca? It's mentioned in the Bible that Sarah started getting jealous. And then she didn't like Hajar. And so she told Ibrahim, get her away from me. I don't like her. And she had this jealousy issue. We don't have that story in the Bible. We don't have that story in the Quran, nor in Hadith literature. So this comes from the Christian narrations. But Ibn Kathir kind of mentions this also, but he mentions where he gets it from. So anyhow, but we all know that was a commandment. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so Ibrahim alayhi salam, takes his wife Hajar and baby Ismail, very small little guy, and takes him over to Mecca in this barren land. And we all know this story very well also. And leaves him there. And it's mentioned that he walks away. Puts him there, leaves him with a couple dates and some water, and starts walking away. To the point Hajar, alayhi salam, says, where are you going? And he just keeps on walking. And so she gets a little concerned, what's going on here? So she follows him a little bit. Ibrahim, where are you going? And he doesn't say anything. And he keeps on walking to the point where Hajar says, is this a commandment from your Lord? And then he says, yes. And then she says, if that's the case, we're going to be well taken care of. We're going to be what? Well taken care of. SubhanAllah. Look at the trust of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Put a woman with a 1-year-old or 1-month-year-old, I don't know how old exactly Ismail was, we all know how hot it was today, right? In the desert, and then you're going to make a statement, Allah will take care of us. Don't worry, right? That's amazing to say that statement. Today, when we don't get a job, reply from our resumes in a couple of weeks, we give up hope. Forget about it. I don't know. My du'as are not being answered. No, Allah's not curing my auntie, she's sick. And we kind of lose hope very quick. This is a big lesson that you always have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's hard. It's easy for me to say it on the microphone. But Hajar and Ibrahim alayhi salam, they are the ones that exemplified it. So here that she lets him go. Ibrahim alayhi salam walks away, turns around, and makes dua. Makes a famous dua where he said, Allah bless this land and make it of people that will like my family and give them a leader amongst them, if you will. And we all know that his dua was accepted, if you will. Multiple years after that, we have Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that comes later on after that. Ibrahim alayhi salam leaves, and we have the famous story of Hajar sitting with his baby in the middle of the desert. And it's mentioned that she runs out of water and dates, and so she's looking for some type of help. What are you going to do? Try to find somebody, some caravan that's coming through the desert. She goes up on these hillocks we call Marwa and Safa, or Safa and Marwa. Okay? We all know if you do Hajj or Umrah, you have to walk through them. And she goes up to them, and she runs back and forth once, twice, thrice, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. And after the 7th time, she hears a voice. And then she says, where's that voice coming from? If you're trying to get my attention, I have heard you. And she turns around and sees the baby and sees Jibreel alayhi salam there next to him. And it's mentioned Jibreel alayhi salam took his wing or his heel. I think there's a narration that it was Ismail's heel. From what I read, it's Jibreel alayhi salam took his wing and digged the ground, and guess what comes out? We're still flowing today. And that is the Zamzam well, the Zamzam water, which is a great miracle, but nobody talks about it on TV for some reason, right? But this thing's been flowing ever since, and not just flowing, they're pumping pumping that water out, right? Tons of that water out, if you will, gallons, if you will, out. Up to today, and it hasn't dried. And Mecca doesn't get much rain, so it's not much water going down to the land to fill up the well back again. So that's a complete miracle that you won't see much people talk about, subhanAllah. And so this water started coming out. She runs back down, and the Prophet ﷺ said that she started gathering dirt to try making a pool, kind of, right? Don't think about a modern day well today. When you go, there's like a cement structure and a little bucket and a pulley. There was nothing. It was a hole in the ground. Water started just flowing. So she started trying to get dirt around there and put it around to stop that water. And once it bubbled up, it kind of stayed. And the Prophet ﷺ said that if she didn't do that, there will be a river running from Mecca now. It would just keep on going, right? So she stopped that. And of course, she benefited from the water. She started drinking from it. What happened? It ended up being like a little mini lake or a little mini pool, if you will. And birds, usually, they're great finding water. And they started floating around, and when another tribe started coming, and the tribe of Jurham is mentioned, came and said, hey, can we stay here? You have water? She said, yes, but this is my water. If you want to use it, then you have to, ask me or either pay me, etc. And this was an Arab tribe. If you think about it, about Hajar and Ismail, are they Arabs? No, they're not. They're originally from Babylon area. You can maybe call them Arabs up there at that time, maybe, right? But this is when this tribe came, it was an Arab tribe. And this is what Ismail alayhi salam, as a baby, when he grew up, he ended up marrying a woman from that tribe. And this is how the Arabization, if you will, of that lineage started. And it's mentioned that he finally, now we're going to move over a little bit to Ismail alayhi salam. Ismail alayhi salam finally gets married to someone there, and he's living in Mecca. Ibrahim alayhi salam leaves, okay? And he doesn't really come back to take care of Ismail alayhi salam. It's not bad fatherhood here. It's just, that's the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, don't think like, oh, what a dad. The dad didn't come back, and help out his son. No, this is commandments from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, okay? That he's supposed to stay with his other wife, Sarah, and take care. And there's other things that are going on in that area that he was in. Ismail alayhi salam gets older. Ibrahim alayhi salam is mentioned, comes and to see his son. He knocks on the door. He finds out what house is Ismail living at. Knocks on the door. The wife opens the door. She said, where is Ismail? They said, he went out hunting. He's not here. She said, how are you guys doing? And so she started to complain that we don't have this, we don't have that, we don't have all these different things. And so Ibrahim alayhi salam says, well, tell him that I'm so-and-so and I came to visit him, and that to change his door area, either the mat of the door or the door. Change the mat on the front of the door. Just change it, if you will. So the lady's like, okay, sure, no problem, right? And he leaves. Ismail alayhi salam comes back, hears the story, and says that, oh, that was my dad, Ibrahim alayhi salam. He came to come visit me. And he told me to change the thing because he told me to, what? Find someone else to live with, pretty much. Divorce. Because looking for someone to be a little bit more content. Unfortunately, we don't have much more narrations that explains that story a little bit more, right? What was the background of it? But that's just kind of what it's mentioned. I'm assuming, obviously, there's more to that. So he gets married, he's growing up, and it's mentioned Ibrahim alayhi salam finally comes back. And he says, son, I have a command. And this command here was to build the Kaaba. So it's either to build the Kaaba first, and then we have the story of the sacrifice afterwards. So it's the story to build the Kaaba. He says, Dad, do what as you like. And so this mentioned in Mecca at that time was kind of like on a hilltop. And there was an area around it. So when it will rain, water will go around it. It was like on a hill, if you will. Not a big hill, but just a hill rock. And they said that is the area where the Kaaba should be met. And so they started building Kaaba there. And building high. As mentioned, that was actually very high, to the point they couldn't reach the top. And they had a stone that Ismail alayhi salam would bring and put up this stone here, and Ibrahim alayhi salam would step on it to put the final bricks on the Kaaba itself. And that stone is what we call today. Anyone know? Say it louder. We call that the Maqam Ibrahim. Is that what you said? No one said it right. Okay, I thought I heard something like that. Anyhow, you lose 5 points. You had 5 points earlier, now you lost it. It's okay, inshallah ta'ala. We'll win it. We'll get you a stuffed animal afterwards. So anyhow, so he built this thing called the Maqam Ibrahim. And if you see it right now in Mecca, if you have any present day pictures of the Kaaba, you'll see this little gold dome. You have the door of the Kaaba, and then off to the if you're looking at the Kaaba door, off to the right is a little gold dome. That's what they call the Maqam Ibrahim. And if you look in the glass of it, there's a glass area, you're supposed to look, if you look in it, you'll see the rock and it'll have footprints in it. It's actually gold plated now, but it has footprints and supposedly of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Right? وَاتَّخْذَ مَقَامَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلَّى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Baqarah, take the maqam of Ibrahim, the place that he stood, as a place of prayer. That's why if the anyone who make Umrah or Hajj, you go 7 times around the Kaaba, and it's sunnah to what? To pray 2 rakats after their tawaf around the Kaaba, behind the maqam Ibrahim. Okay. And if you look right now, if the Kaaba door is where I'm at right now, the maqam is like about 20 feet off to the right. So if you think about it, how did Ibrahim alayhi salam stand there and then put the bricks, which is like 50 feet or 100 feet in front of him? How would he do that? Did he have long arms? They took it, he stepped on it, and then he put it on there? No. That maqam Ibrahim used to be right next to the Kaaba. But what happens is that everyone likes to pray 2 rakats right behind there. And everyone's doing tawaf. So you know what's going to happen? People are going to step on you and you're going to trip over them. Because anyone have ever done tawaf before, there's still people today that want to pray 2 rakats right behind it because they want to follow the sunnah. But there's so many people doing tawaf, you end up walking, you don't see a person that's praying right there, you end up either stepping on them or tripping over them, and it causes a lot of issues. So they have moved it back further so that people are able to walk around the Kaaba, and that's why it's there today. But it was a lot closer. They moved it. Okay? And so they built the Kaaba there. And what happened is that Kaaba was on a more of a rectangle type space. I wish I had pictures, but anyhow. If you look at the Kaaba today, the Kaaba is more of a square shape. The literal word of the Kaaba in Arabic means square, or mean cube, if you will. It's a cube, if you think about it, right? And so if you have this little semicircle, everyone see that semicircle? You guys know what I'm talking about? At the Kaaba, at the end, at one end, right? They call it the hatim, right? No one's shaking their head, but anyhow. Right, just shake it, it just makes me feel better. Right? So if you see that is where the original foundation of the Kaaba used to be, where Ibrahim alayhi salam built it. But the Prophet ﷺ only built it up to that area that's current day. Why is that for? Because during his time there was a flood, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was a flood, and what happened, the Kaaba got weak. It made out of wood, right? It wasn't really cement structured back in that day. We all know when water hits wood, it causes a lot of damage. And so it fell down, or it got weak. And so what happened, they had to rebuild the Kaaba during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And they knew that it was a very holy building, even the Quraysh at that time, even though they had idols in the Kaaba. They didn't want to use anything that they got from any like riba or any interest type business. They wanted to make it was pure wood, right? It was bought by, the purest money. So when they got wood that they could find, they didn't have enough to extend it to the original foundations of Ibrahim alayhi salam. That's why you only have it a certain size right now, and you have that little semicircle of where the Kaaba should go up to. Now, if I ask you today, do you think the Saudi government has enough money to extend it? They have enough money to build that big old tower right in front of it, right? They probably do, right? But they're not going to extend it. Hopefully they don't do it. Because even during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there people were saying, Ya Rasulullah, we're here in Mecca now. We conquered Mecca, alhamdulillah, and there's no more idols here. And we have money. Why don't we extend the Kaaba back to the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam? And so the Prophet ﷺ told Aisha, his wife, he said, if it wasn't for your people and their ignorance, I would extend it. But if I would change it, what do you think people would do? What? Can you change the Kaaba? This is they'll start making a big deal about it. So he said, I left it on its original, meaning the way that it's built, and we're not going to change it. And it's mentioned that later on, some of the Khalifas that came, they extended it. And then another one came, he shortened it back again. And they did it back and forth, and they said, no, just leave it the way the Prophet ﷺ left it, and this have no much issues. Now let me ask you this. Was Ibrahim alayhi salam the first person to build the Kaaba? Okay, I'll give you guys another 5 points for this. You can make up that 5 points, you lost. Okay. I'll be gracious to you. I'll give you guys 10 points. Is he the first one to build the Kaaba? So I got a shaking head in the back. Everyone else is scared now. They're like, I don't want to say anything because he's going to point me out, and I don't want that to happen, right? So here is that it's mentioned that yes, he was the first one to build the Kaaba. It's also some narrations I mentioned that Adam alayhi salam was the first one to build the Kaaba and then it was destroyed. And then Ibrahim alayhi salam came back and then built it over that area, which is a more of a weaker narration. But he was the first one to build it. That we take that as a majority opinion, if you will. Okay. Now, was the Kaaba rebuilt multiple times? Yeah, of course. It's made out of wood. It's going to deteriorate, right? And during the time the Prophet ﷺ mentioned there was a flood and it fell down, he built it back again. And unfortunately, after the Prophet ﷺ passed away, and we all kind of know our Islamic history a little bit, really bad things happened, which I'm just so ashamed of to even mention. So I'm not going to mention it, but very sad things happened. And unfortunately, there was a battle that happened. There was a person named Hujjaj bin Yusuf. That was a very bad Muslim leader, if you will. And they ended up fighting in the city of Mecca and end up throwing a catapult and end up hitting the Kaaba and breaking it. Okay? And so they had to rebuild it after that. So the Kaaba was partly destroyed after the time of the Prophet ﷺ, not by non-Muslims, not by the Zionists, not by the Russians, not by anyone, but unfortunately by other Muslims, right? Or just, very bad things happen. But go back to the original thing where Ibrahim alayhi salam was building the Kaaba, right? We know that the Kaaba, we have this thing called the black stone. And that was put in by Ibrahim alayhi salam. Originally, the Prophet said that black stone was originally what color? White. That's the only other option you would think, right? Right? White stone. Very good, alhamdulillah. It was white. It was sent down from Jannah. Sent down from Jannah. Imagine that. That's amazing. If you could touch a part of Jannah, that's pretty amazing. Right? It was sent down to Jannah. It was put in the corner that'd be perfectly fit that corner of the Kaaba, and it was given to Ibrahim alayhi salam. Now today, if you go to see the black stone, you usually see this circle type thing, if you will, with a silver frame to it. But if you ever see a close-up picture of that black stone, you'll see a black molding, and then you'll see little chunks of stone. And that, unfortunately, is all what's left of the black stone, little pieces of it. Once again, we have to go into our little bit of our history that happened after the Prophet passed away, which we're embarrassed to talk about. But there's people that try to steal the black stone. Other Muslims, once again, unfortunately. And they took it and they stole it and they put it to another land, thinking people would come and visit their land. And then it had to be stolen back and put it back. And between that, there was fighting and people broke it. And, leave it up to mankind, right? And they broke it up into different pieces. So what today is all what we have left of it. So it's not that whole black slab you think it is. It's actually only little pieces, if you will. How many pieces? I don't know exactly. But it's only pieces there. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the black stone was white, but it turned black because of the sins of the people. Right? Because it's from Jannah. It's pure. It's going to mix something that's not pure, it's going to obviously change. Right? And so that is the black stone that we have today. And the Prophet ﷺ, what he would do, he would kiss it every time he would go around the Kaaba and making tawaf. Right? Not because we worship it, it's just obviously it was part of Jannah, so he would give that honor. As Umar radiallahu anh, when he was doing tawaf, he talked to the black stone. He said, if it wasn't for the Prophet to kiss you, I wouldn't kiss you. Because he didn't want any type of resemblance of idol worshiping. Right? But like I said, we only do it of the honor because obviously it's something from Jannah, and that's it. There's nothing holy about it, no worship it. You don't do anything else other than that. Okay? And it's very hard to kiss it nowadays because there's so many people, and I really advise people not to do it because you end up really hurting people to do it unless it's completely empty and you're in an off season or something during Umrah or something like that. So that's the building of the Kaaba there. And then after that, Ibrahim alayhi salam leaves again. And the last thing that we really have of him that talks about is his birth of his other son to Sarah alayhi salam, the other wife. His other wife was mentioned, she was around 80 something years old. That means that Ibrahim alayhi salam was close to almost 100. And the angels, they came to the house of Ibrahim alayhi salam. It was mentioned there was 3 of them, but they're in the form of a human being. So Ibrahim alayhi salam said, who are you guys? I don't know who you guys are. And they came and he said, well, you're my guest, come and sit down. Back in those days, if you see someone foreign, you invite them in your house. Today, if you see someone foreign, you call the police and tell them that somebody's in my house, can you please leave, right? It's different type of norms. So here, everybody says, who are you guys? I come in my house and sit down. And then the wife said, who are these guests? They're we don't know who they are. So slaughter an animal and give them food, right? Imagine that, subhanAllah. What happened to those days? Those days are long gone. Lucky if you go to someone's house, they give you water nowadays, right? So here, they slaughter a whole animal. And he puts it out there. That's a big animal. That's a lot of money, for at least for during that time. And then the three men sit there and they don't eat. They said, "What's wrong with you?" They started feeling weird about them. "Why aren't you guys eating?" He said, we're not really humans. We're angels, messengers have been sent to you. And Ibn Kathir mentioned it was Jibreel alayhi salam, it was Israfil, and Mikael, the three main well-known angels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But they're in the form of humans. And they say, "We're here to give you a message that the land of Lut alayhi salam, your cousin, that he got sent to that level of land, the land of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? This area, right? He said that land is about to get destroyed. We want to let you know that. So you basically could tell them, and if you want to know, help them out. And that your wife is going to be conceived with a newborn baby." And his wife said, "I'm like so old." And she didn't know it was angels, obviously. She's like, "What are you talking about? Like, I'm 80-something years old." She's like, it's mentioned in the Quran, she slapped her face, like this, out of awe. Like, how am I going to have a kid? You must be, this is the false news. But she's going to have a baby. And that baby was Ishaq, right? Ishaq alayhi salam, the brother of Ismail, or half-brother of Ismail alayhi salam. Okay? And then he was born. We all know also about Ismail alayhi salam. Actually, I forgot myself because I was kind of going a little bit ahead of myself. We have the story of the sacrifice. Of after building the Kaaba, it's mentioned that Ibrahim alayhi salam got another test. That take the son that you love so much, you've been waiting 80-something years for. And now he's finally got the age of rushd, age of maturity. And now he can help you, right? Because when you have a baby and kids, you have to help them. They can't help you. You're changing diapers, you're putting away their toys, you have to take care of them, etc. Now they finally get some age, they're old, now they can finally, yes, help me out, take out the trash, help me out, clean the vacuum, do something. So he finally got to the age where he can help his father. And after the building of the Kaaba, it's mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the command to what? Sacrifice this young boy. Who? Ismail. Imagine that. Sacrifice him? What? Ibrahim alayhi salam is so connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he doesn't question the command. He tells his son, "I've been commanded to sacrifice you." He tells his son, "What do you think about that?" His son says, "If'al ma ta'murun." He says that, do what you have been commanded. Do what you have commanded, Dad. I don't have no other say in that. That is amazing that a son will say that. Number two, first, what's amazing that Ibrahim alayhi salam will even go and carry this out. Because I don't know about you, if someone says sacrifice your son, you'll be like, hold on, is that shaitan talking to me? Or am I again delusional? Maybe too much chai I drank last night, I don't know. Right? What is that? What's going on? But here Ibrahim alayhi salam doesn't question. Allah wants me to sacrifice his son, I'm going to do it. But we all know that it wasn't really about sacrificing his son. That wasn't the test. Right? It wasn't really that he wanted his son to die. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want that. But wants to see that someone that you love so much, or anything you love so much, whether that's money, whether that's property, are you willing to let it go? That's a real test here that we're looking at. And it's mentioned that he took his son, put his face down so he didn't want to see his son, and got the knife ready, and he was about to cut his son or sacrifice his son. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, that you have passed the test. We don't want you to sacrifice your son. It was never about you sacrificing your son. It's about whether you're willing to even go forth and do that. Right? That's what we really want to see, what you would do. And we didn't think you were going to pass, we didn't know if you were going to pass this or not, but he did. And then we all know a ram or a goat or a lamb came down and they ended up sacrificing that. And he passed that test, subhanAllah. When we talk about how is Ibrahim alayhi salam so great, that he passed so many different tests. Right? And he did it with trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Take your wife and leave her in the middle of the desert with your brand new son you've been waiting 80 years for. Right? You'll be saying, Allah, what's the point in that? I've been waiting so long for my son, and now you want me to just leave him in the desert? I don't want me to spend some time with him. But that wasn't Ibrahim alayhi salam. He said, no, okay, you want me to do that? Khalas, done. Now sacrifice your son. Okay, do it. Leave Babylon and go to Palestine. Okay. Go to Egypt now. Oh, okay. Go back to Palestine. Go back. That's Ibrahim alayhi salam. That's why he was so great. He got the Allah's orders. He believed in him. He didn't question it one bit. Right? Why do we have to pray 5 times a day? Why do we have to do this for? Why do we have to make hajj? Why do we have to fast for? Why do we have to pray sunnah afterwards? We just prayed. Why do you have to make wudu? You have to get yourself all wet for, right? Why do you wear hijab for? Why do we do this? If you love Allah subhanahu, you understand who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, that's it. And you believe what's in the Quran, we all know the Quran is no change in it, then whatever the order says Allah says do it, that must be the best way. Right? That must be the best way. Right? And that's the Iman level we're trying to get. Right? Of course, Ibrahim alayhi salam is, alhamdulillah, he's a prophet. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him so much. We at least take the lessons from that. And so this is the main stories that we have of Ibrahim alayhi salam. We don't have anything else pretty much after the birth of Ishaq, if you will. Right? It's not mentioned what happened after that. All we know, it doesn't even mention his death in the Quran. We get that from some Christian sources and some people of the book, where he passed away in the lands of, where? Of Palestine, like I mentioned, Hebron, or a place called Al-Khalil. And then I don't know if his tomb is still, I'm assuming they might know where it's at, but Allahu Alam. And that's where he passed away. And some say narrations mention that he was 170, 180, 190, around there when he passed away by natural causes from what we know. So that is Ibrahim alayhi salam, subhanAllah. I ran over his life pretty much in a nutshell. But what I wanted to do is the title of the program was his life and lessons. So I wanted to go a little bit more about the lessons, if you will. What can we learn from his life, even though that, alhamdulillah, now you know a lot about his life, if you didn't know before. But what are some lessons that we can take? Number one is that, go back to the story about when he was a young boy and he was telling his community not to worship idols. If you look at the story, subhanAllah, Ibrahim alayhi salam had a lot of things going against him at that time. Number one, he's young. No one likes the youngsters to tell people what to do. And nobody likes anyone to tell you what to do. But number one, he was young. Number two, his own father didn't support him. He had no family background. He was walking the streets with nobody, no crew, nobody was trying to help him. And number three is that, like I said, no family and no followers. But did that stop Ibrahim alayhi salam? No. This, how much he understood the message of da'wah, of calling people to Islam, or calling people to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a great lesson for all of us here. A lot of you guys maybe work in the whatever company or whatever workplace that you have, or whatever neighbors that you have, where you're like, I don't know, I don't want to bring up Islam because, it's kind of weird. I don't want to bring up religion at work. I don't know if HR is going to like it, etc. Ibrahim alayhi salam could care less about any of that nonsense. Let me ask you this. When Ibrahim alayhi salam broke the idols, right, and he put the axe on the big one, and the people came back into town, did you think Ibrahim alayhi salam knew he was about to get in trouble? Yeah. Do you think that maybe he should run away from the city and hide, as kids like to do, right? They break things and I don't know who broke it, I don't know. And they're hiding in the back somewhere. Ibrahim alayhi salam, no. He didn't hide. When the people came, they said, hey, did you break it? They said, hey. He wanted people to come. He's a young kid, but he was smart. Because nobody was listening to him. How do you get people to listen to you? Right? Start a fire, everyone come in, what's this fire? Hey, I got you guys all now. Guess what? Worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's your God. He wanted them to come and gather around him. And he got exactly what he wanted. Right? Everyone came and he says, look, the idols don't even speak. They don't even help you. And the people were like, yeah, that's true. And that's exactly what he wanted to, deliver the message. You think someone during the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam that lived in his city on the day of judgment could come and tell Ibrahim alayhi salam or tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hey, Ibrahim was alive during my time. He never told us about to worship you, Allah. So it's his fault. You think someone could do that during his time? No. Everyone knew about that message. And I can ask you, how many people in your street know about Islam that you went and you talked to them about it? How many people? How many people at your school? How many people at your workplace? Right? Right? Imagine that. We're just talking about just people around you. Forget about your whole city. I'm not even talking about Garden Grove or Anaheim or Fullerton. But Ibrahim alayhi salam made sure everyone knew it. Did he care that he might look like a weirdo? Or people might have, think he's weird? He didn't care at all. He didn't care that he knew that he was about to get thrown into fire and probably get killed. For him, that was a second thought. That I'll think about that later on. But right now, I got to deliver this message. And that's how important dawah is, my dear brothers and sisters. If you could do that, at least start with your coworkers. Start with your best friends that maybe are not Muslims. Start with your neighbors, right? Tell them something about Islam. Hajj is coming up. Maybe you could bring something about it. Give them some sweets on the day of Eid, right? And those who work in a company, maybe in your break table, in your break room, You can make a little Eid, like, a little Eid sign and put some sweets. I'll tell you myself, in the company I work at, I did that. I told them, if I got permission from my HR lady, I told them, okay, I'm going to do this. Our holiday's coming up. Can I put a little sign in my break room? I'm going to put some sweets. She's like, yeah, take pictures. We'll put it in our newsletter. I was like, okay, mashallah, all right. And alhamdulillah, I just put a little sign there. People came. Everyone loves sweets at work. If you put anything free at work, people will eat it. It could be like the leftovers from last week. It will be gone by lunchtime. People just love free food at work. I don't know. It's like anything you could put out there, right? So put some whatever. I bought like donuts and unhealthy stuff, but anyhow, put it there, right? Put a little Eid sign, print it up, put some blurb in there why we fast in Ramadan. Alhamdulillah, people got it. I got a couple of people came back like, oh, I didn't know about fasting. Oh, I didn't know you fast. You weren't eating the whole time. He just gave me a chance to talk about Islam a little bit. No one converted. No one took Shahada that day, right? But it's at least that, alhamdulillah. A lot of them kind of knew I was Muslim anyhow. But anyhow, that's just something you could do. It's very simple, right? No one's going to stop you from putting free donuts in the break room, believe me. It's like $12 for free donuts. I mean, donuts don't cost. It's not $12 for free donuts. Sorry, that makes no sense. But $12 for donuts that you're going to give away for free, right? If something costs that much, and you're doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dawah through donuts. That's a new concept. That's a 2019 concept right there, subhanAllah. Right? So this is something that you can learn from Ibrahim alayhi salam. He didn't have any fear. He wanted to make sure that people knew about Islam and call who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and that bothered him that people worship idols. And that's my second point, my dear brothers and sisters. If you have your co-workers, does that bother you that John and Sally and Roberto and Jaime and Javier, that they are Christians or they're worshiping Jesus, or they're not worshiping anything? And they're like, man, I work with these guys day in and day out. They know me better than most people. And they're not Muslims. That should bother you. Like, I wish I could tell them something. And once you lose that out of your heart, just know you've been defeated. When that doesn't bother you, just know you've been defeated. Like that dawah, light in your heart has gone out. Like that's not Ibrahim alayhi salam level. Okay, that's what we're trying to get. So that's one thing that we, inshallah ta'ala, we could take a big lesson on that. Second lesson, I'll end on this, inshallah ta'ala, is family issues. Oh man, I need another 3 hours for that one. Family issues, right? Family is very hard to deal with. You love your family. You have great times with them. You have those road trips. You have that Eid dinner, right? You have people that come over and visit. Alhamdulillah, it's very beautiful. But sometimes family is like, man, I just don't want to be around them anymore. It's just, they're cool, but sometimes they're not that cool. Okay. Ibrahim alayhi salam, his own father used to do what? Carve the idols. Ibrahim alayhi salam used to tell people not to worship the idols. The father says, worship idols. Ibrahim alayhi salam is saying, don't worship idols. They live in the same household. They eat dinner on the same table. You think that's going to be problematic? Yeah. You think that's a fun household to live in? Nah. Right? That's some serious family problems there. Nobody's hugging and kissing and having a great time. To the point that Ibrahim alayhi salam, he has to make sure that the people in his own house is guided before the people outside. So he tells his daughter, he says something very interesting. إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ يَا أَبَتِي لِمَا تَعْبُدُوا مَا لَا يَسْمَعُ وَلَا يُبْصِرُ وَلَا يُغْنِي عَنْكَ شَيْئًا. Surah Maryam, where he says his father, oh my dear dad, ya abati, my dear dad, I love you. You're my dad, right? I respect you. But why do you worship something that doesn't see, it doesn't hear, and doesn't benefit you anything? I don't know. Can you explain that to me? Ibrahim alayhi salam comes in a very polite way. But what does his dad say? قَالَ رَاغِبٌ عَنْ آلَاتِي يَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ. Ibrahim, are you doing away from liking our gods? I mean, you have no desire to worship our gods? لَإِن لَمْ تَنْتَهِ لَأَرْجُمَنَّكَ. Look what his dad tells him. His dad doesn't say, go to your room, stay quiet, I'm going to take down the Wi-Fi, give me your phone, no more Fortnite. He says what? لَأَرْجُمَنَّكَ. I'm going to stone you to death. I'm going to kill you. That's serious. That's what social services needs to be called right now, right? That my dad just told me he's going to kill me. I don't know. Can you come and help me? That's serious business. Your dad didn't say just stay quiet. You talk too much, little kid. I don't like you. Go outside and stand in an ant's hole or something, a patch or something. No. He said what? I'm going to kill you, right? And it says, wahjurni maliya. And wahjur from hajara. And get away from me. Imagine if your dad tells you that. Get away from me and leave me. That's serious. What did Ibrahim alayhi salam tell his father? I don't know about you. If someone comes and tell you, I'm going to kill you, what do you say? Please? No, you don't say that, right? What do you say? Well, I'm going to kill you. Come on, bring it on. Right? No, I'll take you down. Right? Right? You usually have a reaction to that. But what does he say? He says, قَالَ سَلَامٌ عَلَيْكَ. Ibrahim alayhi salam, subhanallah, so latif, yani. Subhanallah, yani, muta'addib. He says what? He tells his father, peace be upon you. Daddy, you want to kill me? Ah, Daddy, salamun alayk, peace be upon you. How do you say that to someone that just says, I'm going to kill you? That's crazy. Ibrahim alayhi salam has composure. Right? He knows when someone gets you angry, you're like, you start getting your voice starts increasing, and then you look for things to throw, usually, right? And you want to stamp tables, and you want to get up and kind of pound and make yourself look like a big lion. He doesn't do that. He says, Salamun alayk, la astaghfiru laka rabbi. I'll ask my Lord to ask forgiveness for you. Right? That's what he replies with. Right? That is amazing. Why did Ibrahim alayhi salam, why did he reply like that before? Yeah, I know he's a prophet, I got it. But why did he reply like that for? Because he understood the person he's talking to is who? His father. That's my father. I don't agree with him. Right? He's worshiping idols. He's selling idols. That's like the worst thing ever in the world for me to do. But at the end, he's still my what? My father. Right? And fathers sometimes, when they get older, they're hard to deal with sometimes. They get a little grumpy. Take off all the lights, no air conditioning, too much electricity, right? And you don't want to. So it's hard to deal sometimes with them, right? And but here, what the end is, they're still your father. He understands that. My father just told me he's going to kill me, but he understands that's my father. I'm not going to tell him I'm going to kill you. My dad, I'm going to beat you down. Let's take it. Let's get it on. No, he understands that's my father, and that's one lesson I ask all of you: that if it's your cousin, your uncle, your auntie, your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, right? That gets you angry and they always kind of pick on you and they make these comments and they're hard to deal with, kind of bear with it. Because at the end, that's your blood. And they need a separate type of rahmah for them, right? Especially parents, right? Especially what? Parents, right? And that's one of the main lessons. Another lesson we can learn from Ibrahim alayhi salam is that he didn't talk back to his father. He didn't raise his voice back to him, right? I can't say, I'm perfect. I would love if I could do that too. It's hard to do that. But that's the reason why we go over these lessons, my dear brothers and sisters, so we could learn from that and implement it. Ibrahim alayhi salam was an amazing person, right? He passed tests. He had composure. He didn't get angry, right? Trusted Allah, never talked back to Allah. Let me leave my wife in the desert. I got to sacrifice my son. I got to build a Kaaba. I got to go back to Palestine. I got to go to Egypt now. I got kicked out of my city. My dad doesn't love me. That looks like a terrible life, right? That's tough, right? But Ibrahim alayhi salam knew that this is all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When he left, last thing I'm going to leave on, even though I already said this one in the last one, but one thing about tests, my dear brothers and sisters, this is really important, I want you guys to take home with this lesson, is that sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you a test, and you're like, there's no wisdom in this happening. I don't see any benefit from this. But sometimes you just have sabr with it, and trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best for you. When Ibrahim alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to leave his wife and his son in the middle of the desert, did he know that there's going to be a place called the Kaaba in Mecca and there's going to be tons of Muslims going to worship here till the end of the world? Did he know that? No. He said, Allah told me to do that. I don't know. I don't know what the wisdom is here. They're probably going to die within a couple of weeks. I don't know. But he didn't question that. He said, Allah told me to do that. There must be hikmah in it, right? Why am I not getting a job? Why am I have to go to this college for, right? Why did my mom tell me I have to do this for? Sometimes just obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Have trust in them that inshallah there's going to be barakah in this, even though I don't know it, if you will. And that's what we call tawakkul. And that is Ibrahim alayhi salam, subhanallah. Unfortunately, there's not really time for questions because 5 minutes before salah. So people want to start making lines and so forth. But inshallah ta'ala, I hope that you benefit from this, from the program and the talk. That, like I said, I didn't do justice talking about Ibrahim alayhi salam. There's so much more that we can talk about his life. I didn't do justice of it. And but if you had any questions, you could catch me after, inshallah ta'ala, after Salat Aisha. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. Help us be like Ibrahim alayhi salam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept this time for us, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us have composure and sabr and ta'at and obedience like the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, Ya Rahman Ya Rahim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easiest for us to visit your house and make us make hajj, Ya Rahman Ya Rahim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who are going for hajj, we ask you to return them back safely and remove all their sins for them and accept their hajj, Ya Rahman Ya Rahim Ya Ghafoor. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah bless all of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Make sure our lines are straight. Heels on the line. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. تبارك الذي جعل في السماء بروجا وجعل فيها سراجا وقمرا منيرا وهو الذي خلق الليل والنهار خلفة لمن أراد أن يذكر أو أراد شكورا. وعباد الرحمن الذين يمشون على الأرض هونا وإذا خاطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلاما والذين يبيتون لربهم سجدا وقياما والذين يقولون ربنا اصرف عنا عذاب جهنم إن عذابها كان غراما إنها ساءت مستقرا ومقاما. والذين إذا أنفقوا لم يسرفوا ولم يقتروا وكان بين ذلك قواما. والذين لا يدعون مع الله إلها آخر ولا يقتلون النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق ولا يزنون ومن يفعل ذلك يلقى أثاما يضاعف له العذاب يوم القيامة ويخلد فيه مهانا إلا من تاب وآمن وعمل عملا صالحا فأولئك يبدل الله سيئاتهم حسنات وكان الله غفورا رحيما. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ومن تاب وعمل صالحا فإنه يتوب إلى الله متابا والذين لا يشهدون الزور وإذا مروا باللغو مروا كراما والذين إذا ذكروا بآيات ربهم لم يخروا عليها صما وعميانا والذين يقولون ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما أولئك يجزون الغرفة بما صبروا ويلقون فيها تحية وسلاما خالدين فيها حسنت مستقرا ومقاما قل ما يعبأ بكم ربي لولا دعاؤكم فقد كذبتم فسوف يكون لزاما الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Just want to make an announcement for the youth. MYG is having a beach cleanup this Sunday from 10 to 11 in Long Beach. We're pairing up with another organization that does beach cleanups once a month. So if you would like to come, or the adults would like to come, or the youth would like to come, please see me, inshallah ta'ala. We'll give you all the details. There's a flyer that's circulating out. So once again, we're going there. We're going to pick up trash off the beach and clean up the area, inshallah ta'ala. Obviously, that's very virtuous. Inshallah, there'll be a lot of reward for you, inshallah ta'ala. So if you'd like to come, please see me afterwards. Assalamu alaikum.